Welcome to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we talk all things Panther City Lacrosse Club. Now here are your hosts, Nicholas and Andy.
Panther City went on the road to Vancouver in hopes to solidify their spot in the postseason, and the Warriors were looking to play upset and end the year strong. Welcome everyone to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast. I'm Nicholas, joined by Andy.
Hello.
At the beginning of the year, Andy, we both had predicted Panther City would indeed make the playoffs in only their second year as a franchise. This last weekend, they looked to prove that prediction correct as, before the game, enough chips kind of fell in our favor to allow us the chance to clinch a playoff spot with a win. I mean, it was very much a win and end situation for Panther City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think whatever happened out east kind of worked in our favor. And so it's like, okay, then it's all on us to control our own destiny, take care of business.
Yeah, and we had talked about it, but, going up against a Vancouver team who, like, we've had close games with them in the past, but we've also had games where we ran away with the score against them and had really good nights. And this is going to turn out to be one of those games where it was a lot closer than I think we expected it to be.
Yeah, none of us could have predicted what happened. We figured coming off the loss to Calgary that maybe we were going to put our foot down and everything. But to Vancouver's credit, they played tight the entire way through.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, even before the game started, we had saw the injury list and saw that Crawford was possibly out again. But apparently he was good enough to go. I mean, he was in that lineup at the start of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll go into how he did in our recap, but it's definitely helpful to have that veteran presence on the team. Speaking of, but not quite a veteran, but I hadn't realized, but Dean Farrell from the team's inaugural season and also earlier this year had joined the Vancouver Warriors a bit earlier. Maybe sometime last month or in April. But so there was another guy that could have probably given the Vancouver team some institutional knowledge of how we play and run our offense. Maybe that contributed to what happened.
Yeah. And again, good luck to Farrell up there in Vancouver. You hate to see integral parts, especially from their first season, kind of, go on to other ventures at other teams, but that happens in sports, and we can only wish them the best of luck. But even as the game started, right off the bat, I mean, first quarter, we did look like that Panther City I was hoping would come out. Last week I laid down the challenge, hey, if we're going to make it and if we're going to have a strong push into the playoffs, that offense needs to show up. And all I can say is, dang, they showed up in that first quarter. I mean, right off the bat, it took a few minutes, but we were aggressive right off the bat.
Right.
But Tony Malcolm got that first goal not only like 4 minutes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a great shot, and it was kind of the culmination of just the aggression at the beginning. It's like, okay, if we're getting this many shots on goal, surely one is going to go our way at some point, and we're going to catch their goalie off guard.
Oh yeah, and even before that goal, like Donville had like got in close to the goal, and like did a diving shot, and it missed,
Mm-hmm.
but it just kind of showed that they were really trying to be aggressive, not only offensively, but as we'll talk about tonight, their defense was stifling up a little bit and playing really hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was excellent. And soon after that Malcolm goal, I believe Callum Crawford, fresh off the potential IR,
Right.
found Patrick Dodds on a really nice pick and roll play to help them take a 2-0 lead early.
Yeah, I mean, Dodds again showing up, getting a good goal. Crawford. So this is what I wrote down. I mean, obviously, first off, I thought to myself, where has this offense been hiding all year? It seems like every game we start off behind, and then we have to crawl our way back. But for some reason, it was like, okay, hey, we got to come out on fire this time, and the offense really showed up. And also, talking about the offense, I mean, Crawford, even though, again, we'll talk about him more. Even though he wasn't scoring the goals and doing all that, maybe his presence was making the difference that night.
Absolutely. I think a guy that's played as good as long as he has commands a certain amount of respect for his opponents, and you don't want to get shown up by Showtime. So he's probably a name that every opponent circles, and whether that'll affect him statistically at the end of the game or not, it varies, but his impact will always be felt one way or another.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely something they had been missing, especially last week, in Calgary. But Vancouver was holding strong. I mean, they weren't really going away that easy. We kept the ball, down on their end, but their defense kind of tightened up after that goal by Dodds. And then they had to, it was just kind of funny. They had a TV timeout. I think it was the under 10-minute TV timeout. And right when they came back from that, Vancouver was like, nope, we got to score. I can't be too mad about it. It really actually was a pretty good goal by Ball. I mean, he just kind of he dove in and it jumped in and got the goal. Again, it's one of those goals that you can't be too mad about, but at the same time, you're like, okay, well, now they can, now we can start to play defense again.
Yeah, we're not to the point where I have a favorite opponent per se,
Mm-hmm.
but I do kind of like watching us play against Vancouver because Keegan Ball is a really really entertaining player to watch. Some of these diving or jumping goals behind the back stuff that he does is really impressive.
Well, and again, they're in a position now where they're just trying to end the year on a strong note, and so you could tell that. You could tell that in this game. They were not going away easy, and they were not relinquishing up on defense or offense. But yeah, so he gets Vancouver goes up or not goes up, but gets a goal. So they're on the board. Shortly after though, I mean there was a goal by Will Malcolm, a diving goal. He lost it to a challenge. You hate to see that, but it's still again playing to the aggression of the offense. I actually wrote down, unfortunately, I think Will Malcolm might be out of the MVP contention in the NLL just because he really hasn't been a big impact the last few weeks, but still playing hard for the team.
And while he might not have those video game or eye popping numbers that he did earlier on in the season, he's still like Crawford. His impact is still felt because I think when guys reach a certain level of sustained dominance, then that's when teams really key on them on defense. And that's where you have guys like Dodds and Caputo and Donville. I know he's one of our elite players as well, but teams are finally getting wise to how good this rookie is.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Malcolm, it was a great attempt. His foot was a little too long,
a little too close. Well, and honestly though, it honestly didn't matter because right after that, Medeiros, I mean, he finally showed back up after kind of being lost in the shuffle last week. He gets a goal, great passing shot into the it looked like they were going to go for a pass, and it ended up into a shot that went straight in the goal. So, Panther City going up 3-1, but Vancouver still not going away. They get a goal back pretty quick after that, and they're down 3-2, but they were a tough opponent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sean Evans, he had a goal off of a great Keegan Ball feed. Again, Ball doesn't just score on his own; he sets up his teammates well. And they were playing this game without Reed Bowering, who's probably their second best offensive weapon. But of course, Sean Evans, he's a long time vet in this league. You can never count him out, and he definitely put up some big numbers.
Right, and so they were keeping it close. I would say Panther City just seemed a little bit more hungry in the first quarter. Tony Malcolm, again, I mean, first quarter, it was his. He gets another great goal. That was a really cool goal, too, because he, juked the defender multiple times and then got the goal in.
Yeah, it's like, because he started out from about, the half court mark, and as he ran, he kind of did a little hesitation, change of speed, which kind of got the defense relaxing for a split second, and that was all he needed to get in close. And then when he got in close, it was just a matter of throwing enough fakes at Aiden Walsh in the net to get past them.
Well, and it was good to see, both him and Will, getting in some good pressure and some good chances at shots. It's just the offense in general was a lot more offensively minded as far as trying to get shots off, but also getting rebounds. Second chances, that was really big in the first quarter for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing. Even when they were missing shots, they were right on the loosies soon after. Vancouver didn't play badly either by any means. Their defense was great, but something about our energy level to start the game,
Mm-hmm.
you could tell that all of Panther City understood the importance of getting a win.
Oh yeah, yeah. And again, the Warriors. I mean, they played hard. They got a power play right before the end of the first. Ended up getting a goal. So end of the first, we were up 4-3, but a really good showing from our team. I felt like, and then the second quarter, it just felt like the attitude changed slightly. And I only say that because the second quarter started, Warriors tied up 4-4. It was very back and forth, and in a game where we started off like really high offensive power, the second quarter just wasn't offensively our best quarter. I felt like.
Yeah, and I'll have to give credit to Vancouver in that. They only put up 2 points, but they held us to none, which is like I don't know how many goose eggs of a quarter we've had this season, but it was pretty impressive. And the offense, like you said, they didn't seem quite as aggressive. They didn't quite have that urgency. Vancouver probably picked up their aggressive uh, defensive pressure. We were still playing aggressive defense as well,
Mm-hmm.
but they were playing well enough to where they were able to net some stuff. And I remember when Killen scored that first goal for them. That was when the ESPN feed was having some technical difficulties,
Oh
and
yeah.
so you're watching like, come on, what's happening? And then when it comes back off, sudden like, what? It's a tie
Yep.
game now.
Yeah, yeah. It literally came back on right after he scored, and he's like celebrating. What the heck just happened?
Yeah, so that
uh,
was kind of funny.
well, yeah, and so Warriors, they did take advantage of their opportunities in the second quarter. Like you said, their defense was playing really good. Kind of hats off to their goalie. I mean, he was actually stopping a ton of shots in the second quarter. Um, but also hats off to our defense. Nick Damude. I mean, last week he pretty much got shut down and taken out in the
Yeah,
without
before
even
the half.
yeah, before the half, without even having a chance for any redemption in that game. And I think he, in the words of Michael Jordan, took that personally.
Yeah, definitely. He showed out, and he Vancouver did get goals here and there, but it was nothing like what we've seen in some of our losses this year, where teams are. Dame usually has that. We'll call it like a first quarter lull where he kind of has to find his groove as a goalie and settle into things. This game, he was good from the get go.
Yeah, and holding a team. I mean, Vancouver ended well. So we go into halftime. We're down 5-4. But again, we've talked about before holding a team to single digits, low single digits like that. I mean, I consider 5 goals in a half still pretty low. I mean, obviously they held us to 4, but it just goes to show you that Nick Damude was out to prove a point.
Yeah, this was definitely a game for the goalies, and it's funny because Aiden Walsh, who's well, I from what I remember, I think he's a rookie, maybe a second year player, but he had actually been the backup for the middle chunk of the season on Vancouver while
Mm-hmm.
they let veteran Aaron Bold play in net. But with this late in the season and nothing to play for but pride, Vancouver decided, hey, let give the kid another look, and yeah, he did a good job.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a bright spot in their defense for next season. So yeah, coming out of halftime, down 5-4, the defense, man, they were just playing really good back and forth. Didn't really get a whole. It felt like we had opportunities on both sides, but just stuff wasn't kind of going our way or their way for a little bit there. Finally, we got a power play, and Caputo. Caputo likes to show up when it counts, and that really happened. Then it was a great putback goal too, because Will Malcolm went in for a shot, bounced off the goalie, and Caputo was there to put it back in.
Yeah, some of the rebound shots he gets are really nice. And Caputo, I believe he leads the league in power play goals with 12, which is pretty nice and does not surprise me based on the way he plays. And it is kind of funny. The penalty that led to that was actually Brandon Goodwin, who actually happens to be Tony and Will Malcolm's cousin, did a
Oh, nice.
body did a body check and got Tony pretty good. So a little family drama, if you will. But hey,
Right.
it paid off for us. We tied it back up.
I was gonna say, sometimes if you're going against somebody, especially family, you get in some extra licks and try to prove a point.
Yeah, might get brought up in the next family reunion.
Right, right. Hey, do you remember that game? Yeah, I remember that game. I remember in the penalty box.
Hmm.
But yeah, so we tied it up with them. But again, man, the Warriors, they were. I think it was just a combination of obviously wanting to have a strong showing in front of their home crowd, but also again just playing really good offense and defense. I mean, they get another goal. They go up 6-5, and then they get a second goal up 7-5. And at that point, I'm just kind of like I'm watching the game and I'm wondering to myself, kind of what happened to our offense from the first quarter. It slowed down in the second quarter, and usually we make those adjustments at halftime and come out third quarter. It just didn't happen this time.
Well, if there's anything about that third quarter, it did seem like there were a bunch of penalties. And while those penalties didn't really lead to a ton of goals on either side, it definitely killed the flow of what otherwise would have been like a solid 5-on-5 offense. I know Crawford got a penalty at the same time that Kirkness did for Vancouver's. And so there was some 4-by-4 play for a while. Normally, you'd think one team or another has specialists to take advantage of that situation, but there were no goals scored by either team during that period. Eventually, we got a penalty on a substitution, which you always hate to see because it just kind of maybe that comes down to how close how picky or strict the ref is.
Well, it's
Looking at
like they're sometimes they're right before the line and they call it, and it's like
yeah.
other times some refs they'll just be like, well, you're within 5 feet, so we're good.
Yeah, yeah, and so you hate to see those, but hey, Vancouver took advantage. So yeah, just something that I guess guys got to watch their feet
Hmm.
before they enter and leave.
Well, and so like you said, I mean, the penalties kind of slowed down the flow of the game. It kind of disrupted it a little bit more. We only get one goal. I mean, one goal in the third quarter. The fourth, so going into the fourth, we're down 7-5. Honestly, this is what I wrote down. It felt like Vancouver smelled blood in the water. They were like, we have a chance to kind of upset Panther City's chance to get in the playoffs. Forcing our hand if we lost to have to try to win next week just to get in. And I, they were just not backing down at all. I was honestly surprised at how hard they were playing that night.
Yeah, I think part of it was just having lost both previous games to us this season, one in blowout fashion and one in a heartbreaking 1 point loss for them. It was probably more than just the end of the season, even playing spoiler game to them. It's like, okay, this team has had our number so far. We can't let them sweep the season series with us.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they showed it. But thankfully, Crawford kind of slowed it down a little bit. He got a goal. I was really glad, even though he was potentially on the injured list. I was glad he was out there. I mean, again, I think his presence just makes a difference.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't even remember if he scored against Calgary. He might have had a few assists, but didn't actually get any goals. So it's always nice to see him get on the board. I'm sure that'll help his confidence going forward. Um, yeah, and right before that, we got kind of lucky in my opinion because Vancouver scored what looked like a goal, but I think they were called for a crease violation or
Hmm.
something. They challenged, it was unsuccessful. So I don't want to say we dodged the bullet per se, but it's nice when the challenges don't well, I guess that one didn't work out, but it worked out in our favor.
Oh yeah, yeah. Whenever stuff like that happens in our favor, it's like we were lucky, but at the same time, hey, it's part of the game. But so Crawford gets a goal, inches us a little bit closer score wise. Daymud again playing really good, limiting their goals, blocking a ton of shots. During that time, there was a power play goal by Gaucher. Uh, Again, Crawford being out there, it was a great pass from Crawford. I mean, he looked like he was going to shoot on the goal, like he geared up like he was going to shoot, and then passed it to Gaucher on the right hand side of the goal. And I mean, it was just flawless. Like It was another one of those like seamless catches and shoot kind of goals from Gaucher, and so he got us on the board, tied 7-7 at that point.
Yeah, that was a quick stick goal by him, right? Like right when
Mm-hmm.
the ball was in, it
Oh
was
yeah.
getting shot. Yeah, and that was really good to see. Partially because you and I talked about it a little bit before. So many of Panther City's shots on goal seem to be going low, like they were trying to five-hole Aiden Walsh, and he was defending those really well. But on the goals that we did get, like Crawford went overhead on his
Mm-hmm.
power play goal, Gaucher went overhead and quick sticked it on his. So just having that shot variety, no matter where you're shooting from, definitely helps keep the defense on their toes.
Well, and that mentality will pay off at the end of the game because we'll talk about that here in a second. But uh, under 4 minutes, around the 4 minute mark, it just felt like both teams were just like it's go time, yeah, nonstop running back and forth. Honestly, it just felt like kind of a madhouse.
Yeah, it was almost like basically a free playoff atmosphere. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I was sweating on my couch watching it, just like, oh my gosh, this was a close one.
Well, and it's crazy to think, but like with 4 minutes left, so much happened. I mean, Vancouver gets a goal, they go up 8-7. Uh, I put this pressure was on the team. That's when the important players show up, and nobody's more important than the captain himself, Haas. I mean, he got a great goal, tied it up 8-8. That really made me think to myself, okay, at the very least, we should play for overtime.
Yeah, that was an excellent goal. Messenger, it was a Hutchinson found Messenger. Messenger was running down, and then Hasek, who hasn't really put up a lot of shots this year, but when he does, he makes them count. And just found I think he sniped the top left corner of the net, so Walsh didn't get to it in time. And yeah, that was with just over a minute and a half left in the game.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, cool. We can hold on defensively. We can play for overtime. That gives us a little bit more of a cushion. That way we can kind of, maybe plan a little bit better and have a shot to win in overtime. No, Panther City had other ideas. Medeiros, man. So Medeiros gets this transition, and he must have listened to what you were thinking, and I mean, it was just a great goal. He was running towards during transition, and he jumps up and puts it just right over the goalie's shoulder. I think it was his left shoulder,
Yeah.
and it was just such a beautiful, just little. It wasn't even a dunk. It was just like a little lob right over his shoulder.
Yeah, just Walsh couldn't move quite fast enough to get it, and so it was great, and it was classic Medeiros. He might have been, of course, you know how Medi is. He'll kind of jump on the glass after a score and fire up the opposing crowd, who might have some certain gestures
I was
they
about
want
to
to show.
say they use some certain sign language gestures towards him.
Yeah, but I'm sure he loves playing that villain role, and that was his 20th goal of the season, which is really good for a player at his position, and better for us that it put Panther City up by one with just over a minute left.
Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, just over a minute. Man, it was just felt like a crazy running of events in that last minute. Like they had the ball, they tried to push forward. We try to get a turnover. They're like mobbing each other at the top of the field, and then Vancouver gets the ball back. And then I think something had happened, and I was trying to figure it out. There was like a timeout or something.
Yeah, something like that. There was some sort of stoppage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite remember what happened. The most vivid thing I remember is when Patton had the ball and we were kind of playing keep away, but two Vancouver defenders rushed Patton and just like
Yeah.
crunched into him. So he lost. Yeah, he
Right,
lost the ball in that.
and so they're just, I mean, they're going back and forth. Obviously, with that timeout, Vancouver pulls their goalie, and they're going back and forth. And with like 2.5 seconds left, Vancouver had a shot. I mean, a very slim shot, but still,
Yeah,
and it was awesome to see Nick Damude have kind of his moment of the night.
yeah, he had great saves all throughout the night, but yeah, that final save with 2 seconds left, and then right after the shot was from so far out. There were no other players, offense or defense, near the ball besides Damian. So you knew they no one was going to run down with like 1 second left and get another shot off. So just to see the look on Damian's face and just to see him celebrating him and pumped up, you knew he knew the importance of what he had just done.
Oh yeah, he got that block. The time runs out. I mean, he's like shaking his fist and jumping around. I was like, yes. And where I was watching it, I couldn't hear the audio. I mean, I didn't hear it until later, but it was just awesome to hear, or just to see the team react and knowing that they got that playoff spot. But great win by Panther City.
Yeah, it was awesome seeing them all kind of collect at the middle of the field, and then Coach TK and the assistants come out and congratulate the players, congratulate each other, because they kind of set a fast track plan for this team. They're like, okay, we're gonna have an inaugural season. We'll see how that goes. We know we're gonna have our ups and downs. Okay, that was fun. Season 2, we're gonna make the playoffs. You'd kind of be like, what? This team from Texas is going to make the playoffs in a very competitive division, but hey, they did just that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about kind of our final thoughts on the game, but it was a great game to watch, and it was a great defensive game from both teams. I was a little bit worried, especially towards the end. And as we talked about earlier, it was a lot closer than I thought it would be. But I think this is another one of those games, kind of like the Philadelphia game, where we just had to tough through it and come together as a team and find a way to win. And that's what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely dealt with their adversity, dealt with their leads, dealt with losing it, had a lot of, not a lot, but had a fair amount of penalties that they just had to shake off and be like, okay, we let them have that power play goal. Let's figure things out once we get all our guys back. So yeah, just it was definitely an emotional roller coaster as a fan.
Oh yeah, just adversity in general for that game, and that they had to overcome. Well, of course, that brings us to this week's segment of Mr. Andrew's stats of the game. Mr. Andrew, it was, like we said, a very defensive game, but what stats do you have for us for this game?
Yeah, probably because of it being so defensive, there aren't as many statistics as I normally have or had for the past few weeks, just because so much of defense, I guess you could say it's eye test based rather than statistics. That being said, some of the most important stats do have to do with how the defense is played. Stellar goalie play from both Nick Damude and Aiden Walsh. Damude went 45 for 53 for 85% on his saves, and Aiden Walsh wasn't too far behind. He saved 49 of 58 shots on goal for 84%. So really, really close, and that was reflected in the final score as well. We won the loose ball battle 78-62, and the way we performed in the first quarter and the last quarter probably contributed the most to that, when the energy level was high early on, and then at the end when you could tell the team kind of hit another gear because they're like, okay, this is our time. We're making the playoffs. Let's do what we have to do to make that happen. There were 29 turnovers overall for us, which is a bit higher than you'd like to see. But at the same time, the transition players definitely helped pick up the slack when the offense was getting mugged and hounded. They're like, okay, 5-on-5 might not have the best of nights tonight, so we'll see what we can do. That's how you end up with guys, not just Tony Malcolm and Medeiros, but a guy like Haas getting a goal, getting in on the action.
Yeah, just speaking about the team in general, I mean, you talked about Damude. They pointed out after the game, the man had 15 saves in the fourth quarter alone. Like,
yes,
to say that he had an important role in that win, it would be an understatement. I think, yeah, he also had an assist in the game too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to. Oh yeah, it was that first play when he got it up to Patton, and then Patton found Malcolm. So that was a great hockey assist. I really wish that. I mean, obviously defenses around the league aren't a joke, but it'd be awesome if Nick Damude could throw some outlets far enough and catch the defense off guard. Those are always fun to see. But yeah, he played he played great.
I'm telling you, my prediction for next year: Nick Damude, 2 goals, and who knows how many assists. He can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one opportunity for an empty netter. I don't think Damude attempted it. It was someone else at our end of the goal when
Oh,
Vancouver went 15 net. But yeah, almost went in. That would have been fun.
man. Well, we'll have to wait till for next season for that one. Although we do have one more game left, so we don't
True,
know.
true.
Well, of course, that is our Mr. Andrews stats of the game. Thank you for that. That brings us, of course, to our Cool Cat plays of the game. Um, I have one in comment, or one I have in mind. I will give an honorable mention right now to Crawford. There was one play, and it wasn't play of the game, and it didn't make a goal, but he was literally being held by a Vancouver player right in front of the goal, and he had the stick in one hand and the ball there, and he still tried to like shoot the ball into the goal while he was
Yeah.
being held. It didn't count. I think there was like a penalty against him or somebody else, but it's just like, dang, if he would have made that, that would have been a cool goal.
I remember that. That was almost like Doddsy had a similar goal. Well, a similar would-be goal where
Mm-hmm.
I think he was in the crease or something like that. That circus shot from a game or two ago.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that would be my honorable mention from Crawford. But my play of the game, that Gaucher goal from Crawford. I mean, it was, for me, it was just so seamless. Just Crawford looking like he was going to shoot, pass to Gaucher. Gaucher literally just catches it into the shot, and yeah, definitely cool cat play of the game for me. What about for yourself?
Well, my honorable mention, it didn't lead to anything, but it was just another regular within the flow of the game play that just shows you how skilled these guys are. Will Malcolm, it was either Will or Tony, was bringing the ball up, and the defender was playing aggressive in such a way that he could have easily gotten the ball right loose from the cradle. But Malcolm basically he almost like matrixed out of it to where he I think dipped under the arm just in the nick of time
Mm-hmm.
and ran the ball up court. So I don't believe it led to anything, but when you saw it, it was like, especially for me as a former lacrosse player, it's like, man, these guys are good.
Oh yeah.
And my as for my actual plays, I got to go with the crunch time points. I'll give love to the captain Hosick in transition. He had that great overhand goal to tie it with less than 2 minutes left. And then about 30 seconds later, Tony Malcolm finds Josh Medeiros for that jumping go-ahead score with a minute left over Aidan Walsh's left shoulder. Those are the ones that I think, obviously, everything counted, but just the timing of those and the way in which they were scored were just so great to see, and a fantastic finish to the game.
Well, yeah, big plays and crucial moments.
Yes.
That's what happened, and it was amazing to watch. So that is, of course, our cool cat plays of the game, which brings us to our big cat players of the game. I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
Okay, kind of a recurring theme for me, based on what y'all have heard me say so far. I have three. I gotta give Medi some love. He scored 2 more goals, took 6 shots overall, so he applied that pressure coming from a transition position. He collected 9 loosies as well, and had 2 caused turnovers. And so I think I probably commented it on some random social media thing, but I'd really love to see Medeiros get some love for Transition Player of the Year. I don't know if he's not in the running, I think he should be. I might be a little biased, but just what he's able to do, not just on the defensive end, but applying pressure to the defense and other teams' goalies, just with his constant movement and aggression. You love to see it. And I got to give love to his partner in crime in transition as well. Tony Malcolm had 3 points overall. He had those 2 goals in the first quarter that helped set the tone early, and he also had the game-winning assist to Medi. He also had 9 loosies and 2 CTOs, so both Medi and Malcolm had great nights on both sides overall. And then lastly, we brought him up already. I think he was the team's official player of the game, so he got to wear the hard hat and the chain. But Nicky Damude, As we said before, he saved 45 out of 53 shots on goal for a stellar 85%. But even more so than that, he saved 15 of 16 shots on goal in the fourth quarter for an insane, just around 94% save percentage. Plus, he had the assist early on too. So Medi, Malcolm, and Nicky would be my three.
I mean, hey, again, they were big parts for this win. Um, I'm gonna take the cheap way out on this one. I don't have a player of the game. I don't even have a couple players of the game. For me, it was the entire Panther City team. Like I said earlier, this is the kind of game that they needed. They needed to show that, like the Philadelphia game, they needed to show that they can come together as a team when it gets hard, when it gets difficult, when everything's against you, and come out with a win. We saw it there in Philadelphia. We saw it here in Vancouver. The whole team showed up, especially at the end. I mean, I literally brought up their roster. I thought, man, I could just list them all. I could. I mean, do we have an extra 10 minutes? No, but I'm kidding. But honestly, just everyone from the starters to transition to defense to offense to heck, even practice squad people, getting them ready for this game. I mean, you can't say enough. But for me, like, the entire team deserves credit for this win, and so that might be the cheap way out. But the entire,
I don't think so.
well, yeah, I mean the entire Panther City team, they're my big cat players of this game. Well, we look at this game. What are our final thoughts as we leave Vancouver? I mean, for me, it was a fun game, but as I said multiple times during running through the quarters and running through the scores, hats off to Vancouver for playing hard.
Yeah, they absolutely kept it close, and it's hard to say. It's cliche to say in sports, like, well, the better team won. I wouldn't say we were necessarily the better team in that game, but we did make key plays when it counted late. And what was it? Just a great defensive battle. So I brought it up before, but the 5-on-5 offense was still a little inconsistent, which kind of carried over the past couple of games where transition and defenders now and then would help pick up the slack. But thankfully, yeah, those transition opportunities and power play opportunities really helped even things out. So hopefully by the time things come around in Calgary and then the playoffs beyond that, hopefully we'll be able to kind of establish what we were in the middle parts of the season, where guys like Crawford and Donville and Will Malcolm were really running roughshod over defenses.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just a great road test as well. We already talked about it. This locks us up for the playoffs. I mean, great step in the right direction for Panther City for sure. I know the playoffs are a rough road, but I mean, again, considering this is only their second season as a franchise, great to see it.
A rough road to the Roughnecks.
Oh no, yeah, we'll touch on that here in a second. But yeah, hats off to Vancouver. They played a really good game. Well, yes, we do leave Vancouver in Vancouver and look ahead to our regular season finale. Now we can officially say it's just our regular season finale because we're heading to the playoffs, but it's a home game this Friday against Calgary. Calgary looked pretty dominant a few weeks ago, and I really don't expect anything less, mainly because you don't think they have anything to play for? No, they do have something to play for. I mean, seeding is already set pretty much. They're in the second seed. We're going to be in the third, setting up a rematch pretty much in the playoffs. But Calgary is going for their franchise record 13th win in a season. So don't count them out just yet.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if either Panther City or Calgary chooses to rest anyone, or whether they're kind of use this game as an advanced scouting report. I don't remember. So they do have the second locked up. Like they can't catch San Diego at this point.
I don't think so. I mean, I was looking at it today, and I really highly doubt. I mean, there might be something that could happen in the last few weeks if we beat them, and then or if they beat us and then they win again, because there actually is a final week after Friday.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like we have an off week at the end of the season again. But there might be something to happen, but I don't. I really don't see that happening with San Diego playing like they are. So I'm pretty sure seeds are going to stay where they are. But you brought it up. I mean, Panther City can do one of two things. I think they can, on one end, they can rest most of their starters, use this as an extra week to play some, people who don't get as much playing time, take a rest, let everybody heal up in anticipation for the playoffs. And they could do that. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts about that strategy, first of all?
I wouldn't necessarily love it just because the season's 18 games, I think. And if you're playing that few games compared to something like basketball or baseball or hockey, to me, every game becomes that much more precious for you to try to figure things out. And especially for a team that's headed towards the playoffs, facing their probable first round opponent. So at the same time, you don't want guys to get hurt either. And would love to see guys like Cam McLeod, Ronan Pusch, Nate Wade. I think Nate Wade, this was his first game back in a while last weekend. So you'd like to see them get more minutes and playing time, but you also don't want to lose that cohesion and chemistry that the main rotation guys have. So it'll be interesting to see what Coach DK decides to do. If Calgary, it'd be awesome if they arrested Del Bianco.
Right.
I don't know if that'll happen, but
well, and it might be a situation where because they know they're not going to move, he might play a little bit. They do. Sports teams do that. They'll play their starters for a little bit, and then they'll pull them. Pretty much after the first quarter, just so they have rest.
mm-hmm.
Well, but yeah, they could do that route. The other option, and I'm going to use the best example I can think of. They can do what the New York Giants did. It was back, gosh, I'm thinking almost 12 years now, almost. They were going against the New England Patriots. It was the last game of the season. New England was on track to have the perfect season, and the New York Giants, they could have rested their starters. They could have gotten ready for the playoffs, but instead, they played everybody and they played hard, and they didn't win, but they showed that they weren't willing to back down, and I think that actually helped them going into the playoffs because it just kept that energy going. Like, hey, we might not have won, but we were close and we played hard, and it's a really big confidence boost for a team, especially if we did. Let's say we go into this game on Friday and we were able to win, whether they rested their stars or not. It's a confidence boost for the team to get ready for the playoffs. I mean, I think that's a risk they should be willing to take at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that was the Giants team that ended up beating them later on, right?
Yeah. They meet them again in the Super Bowl, and the Giants said, "Well, hey, we're ready to spoil you guys, or play spoiler." And yeah, they beat them in the Super Bowl that year.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So yeah, we'll see. If nothing else, we do need to avenge our poor showing from the game on April 8th, because that was a bit too one-sided and disappointing, especially having that game of the week. So I think regardless, our guys are going to be motivated regardless of who's out there. Mm-hmm. I do have a little bit of a theory, what with it being the final home game, them doing a lot of promotional stuff, and them having guys signing things afterwards, that they might have the guys that get more playing time possibly in suits or something and not suited up, maybe doing PR during and after the game. So they get a head start on that. Then again, who knows? I know Orleman played instead of Damude in last year's season finale against Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they'll go the same route with McLeod and Damude, but either way, I'm looking forward. I'm sure obviously you want to win, but regardless of the outcome, it is going to be fun going there and just cheering for these guys that just clinched the playoff spot in British Columbia.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, looking at this game, for predictions wise, unfortunately, I'm going to say it's going to be a loss. But it's going to be a good loss, and a loss that helps us feel good about ourselves. So I'm going to say it's going to be another defensive game, maybe 9-8.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to spot each team a few more points, but I think we're going to even the season series and win 12-10.
12-10. Yeah, and I have Calgary winning 9-8. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Because, like I was just saying, you do. I think if you play your starters and play hard, you that's a good confidence boost. But you also run the risk of getting blown out again, and just being completely deflated going into the playoffs. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think Coach TK will get a good feel for where the team is, especially by halftime, and probably decide then.
Yeah, we'll see. If nothing else, I do think some of the older vets like Crawford and Burton could use a bit of a breather. So they might not, if they play at all, I don't expect them to play as heavy minutes as they usually do.
For sure. Before I forget, this Friday night's game is whiteout, so they'll be wearing their white jerseys, which I think is always cool because I love those jerseys. But be sure if you go to the game, try to wear white or buy some of their white like shirts and stuff like that. Honestly, I think last year they did the same thing where they had a lot of stuff on sale because it was the end of the season. So we'll see if they do that again this year. Before we finish tonight's episode, I do have to touch on one subject. So on Instagram, we commented that we're locked in and ready for the postseasons with Panther City, and I'm going to call out his name is Red Kraken. After I said that, he said, "Just so you can lose to Calgary, like we're in the playoffs, just so we can lose to Calgary." And I was trying to point out to him, anything can happen in the playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights in their first season as a franchise made it all the way to the finals. Talk about Cincinnati in the NFL. Everybody picked against Cincinnati the year they went to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. Even looking at Colorado wasn't favored in any of their games last year, and they made the playoffs. They made the finals and they won the title. Anything can happen in the playoffs. I'm just saying, just because you look or you fit the mold of a team that probably won't do or make waves in the playoffs doesn't mean anything. Once you're in, and everybody has a shot.
Yeah, as a basketball fan, the team that I always go to is the 2004 Detroit Pistons. How they were a pretty clear underdog in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers that year and managed to beat them. And then they were a huge underdog against the Shaq and Kobe Lakers in 2004. And they basically whooped them. So yeah, you can never count a team out. All you need is that chance. And I know this team's feisty and they're raring to go. The fans are gonna love it too. So yeah, just keep the faith.
Yeah,
have a little faith.
Well, yeah, and I think we as Panther City fans do have that.
Yeah, it's
faith.
easy to say that.
Yeah, there was another listener on Instagram. His name is Drew. He's definitely commented a few times on different games. He was asking what are the chances of us hosting a home playoff game. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen, especially in the first round, just because we're locked into that 3 spot. But again, if we get a win, the second round of the playoffs is the best 2 out of 3, and that guarantees at least one home game. So
nice.
You just never know. You never know what's going to happen. But we definitely look forward to the next coming weeks. We have our regular season finale this weekend against Calgary, and then it's a week off and ready for the playoffs. So we look to finish up the regular season in high hopes of a good potential playoff run that could lead us closer in the right direction, not only as a team, but as a franchise. Heck, you never know. We could even, play spoiler and make it all the way to the finals. Who knows? You never know what can happen. But thank you all for listening, of course, as always. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am once again Nicholas.
And I'm once again Andy.
And we'll see you all next time.
Sweet. Cheers, y'all.